Hey guys, welcome to Talking the Talkies. I'm Peter Waters. I'm trying out a different format for this latest review of mine, the latest in the Saw horror movie franchise called Spiral, the Book of Saw. So, a little bit of background with my relationship with this Saw franchise. Back in the day, when the first Saw movies came out, I was a massive Saw fan. It was probably my favorite horror franchise growing up. If you look around my room even now, I have a Saw movie poster. I have the first 6 movies on DVD. I also have a Saw themed hoodie that zips up to look like a mask from the Billy puppet from the movie. I have an actual Halloween mask, and I even have a bobblehead, although it is broken, so rest in peace, Billy puppet bobblehead. Pretty much every year, it was a Halloween tradition. There's a new Saw movie out, and pretty much, if you aren't familiar with them, the Saw films are brutally violent movies about a killer, the Jigsaw killer, who takes his victims who maybe don't appreciate their lives very much for whatever reason. Maybe they were abusing drugs, or maybe they were violent towards other people. And the Jigsaw killer takes those who he thinks does not appreciate their lives and puts them through tests, sort of violent, torturous tests, to sort of prove that they really care about their lives. And so, as opposed to other horror movie series like Friday the 13th or Halloween, where the motivation of the villain seems to be barely there, if at all, it's an excuse for killings. In at least the first number of Saw films, the killer was very philosophical, and I thought that was an interesting, different take. I also was of a certain age where I could not actually get into R-rated films, at least for the first number of Saw movies, so I would have to drag my mom to the movie theater sometimes so she could act as my guardian. You would think that, moms and Saw probably don't go together, but I actually got her into the movies, and it's something that we shared every year, watching these Saw movies together. And it's pretty funny because she would go to her gym and all of her friends there, she would talk about that she saw the Saw movie with her son, and her friends would sort of look at her like there was something deeply wrong with her psychologically. So I have really warm feelings for this series, even though it is very brutal and scary subject matter. And that brings us to Spiral from the Book of Saw. Now, as big of a Saw fan as I am, the last couple movies in the series, Saw 3D and Jigsaw, were really not very good. I wasn't really excited when they announced that another Saw film was coming out, but what piqued my interest is that Chris Rock, the world-famous comedian, was going to be the lead actor in the movie. If you think about the Saw series, it is not particularly known for its humor at all. And then with the additional casting of Samuel L. Jackson playing his father, and I was interested again. They also brought back Darren Lynn Bousman, who directed Saw 2 through 5, and so I was excited again, and I was hoping that this would be a return to form for the series. The basic premise of this Saw that kind of takes it in a new direction is it's sort of modeled after like police procedural type movies. It's really a buddy cop sort of story, like a 48 Hours or a Seven or a Training Day type story where Chris Rock plays a detective training the rookie as they're sort of solving this latest Jigsaw copycat killer. The traps are just as brutal and violent as in the past. There's some really creative ways of torturing people, and in this one, luckily, it sort of goes back to its roots where it's not super overly complicated. It really does feel like if you were really determined and you had the knowledge, you could actually create these traps. And in real life, there's one trap that involves glass that was particularly terrifying, and there's one sequence involving a train that is before the opening credits that is really going to make you squeamish. So the story also adds a new wrinkle by following the police officers very specifically. They do add a level of social commentary to the film, which I appreciated. It sort of looks at the corruption of law enforcement of today. The Jigsaw copycat killer in this movie is specifically going after those people in Chris Rock's department who have sort of abused their power as a police officer. It does sort of hold on to some of those generic things that Saw fans will recognize and like that sort of twisty music cue towards the end of the series that was written by Charlie Clouser of Nine Inch Nails fame. And it does have the cool traps, and it does have this mystery to it, but I liked that it sort of took it in this police procedural direction. It was, considering it's the 9th film in a series, I appreciated that they kind of did something different with it. I also really liked and appreciated that Chris Rock was cast in this film. He's definitely an unconventional lead for a Saw movie. I would never think to cast him, and it was sort of intriguing to hear his involvement. He does, in fact, deliver some of his comedic lines in the film. Although sometimes the comedy feels a little bit shoehorned in, like it almost feels like he's doing bits of his stand-up act here and there, and it's not totally congruous with what's going on. I still appreciated that in this super heavy, super intense story that there were moments of levity to sort of, lighten how horrific all the things are in the film. One thing that I really wish there was more of is more interaction between Chris Rock and Samuel L. Jackson. They play father and son in the film, and I would have really loved to see their bouncing back and forth with each other a lot more, but we only really get a couple major scenes between them. Overall, if you are a Saw fan, this is definitely a bit of a return to form for the series. It's definitely not as good as the original 3 films at all, but if you are hankering for another Saw film, I think you could do a lot worse than Spiral. I had a good time, so I'm giving it 3 out of 5 stars. So if you enjoyed this video, definitely give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want, leave a comment if you want, and until next time, I'll see you later.